everyone. Welcome to 2020 Design Trends by UXPin. Today I'm joined by Kim Lenox. Kim, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you for inviting me to this video. I am Kim Lenox and I lead a product design, user research, and content strategy team, as well as design systems at Zendesk. Our teams cross the globe, 9 offices, 8 countries, 4 continents. And we definitely have a globally distributed team. I've been here for 2 years, and before this I was at LinkedIn and did a little bit of design consulting at Adaptive Path and Lunar, worked at Palm. So I've gone back and forth in-house and consulting.
Mm-hmm. Kim, could you please, because we're talking about 2020 design trends, and as a leader, could you please tell me what career emerging trends for designers are coming up in 2020?
Emerging trends. What I'm seeing are a couple different things. Design operations is always been around, but I think they're finally wrangling what they are and what they do and how they can support designers. And those are coming up in different flavors. You'll see even like 5 years ago, there wasn't a design operations conference, for example, and now there is. And we rely heavily on them to be kind of the glue. So I think that that's an emerging trend. And to be in that practice, you could be coming from program management, from project management, but also designers moving into making sure that things run smoothly. And that's an important part of how you can actually enjoy what you do and also ship the products that you want to ship. So I think that's one big trend is design operations. And then over the years of my career, we didn't really have VPs of product design when I started. And so a growing trend is really seeing design executives. And that's definitely an emerging, it's no longer just directors reporting into product or director of design reporting into engineering. There's a much bigger practice of design executives. The challenge with that is there isn't really a lot of design MBA programs out there that are executive level. So how does an executive in design have a conversation with the finance team and the global team that's figuring out where our offices are placed and things like that. So it's a new muscle, I think, for design executives. But I report into the chief creative officer, and Zendesk is very much ahead of the curve in having a chief creative officer and having a VP of product design. We also have a executive creative director of brand. So I think it's very nascent right now, but I'm starting to see more companies invest in product design and brand design being under one umbrella. And we've been doing it for a while, from the very beginning. But what I'm seeing is when the customer and the customer experience is wedded to the brand, and then the user experience of the product is also what matters, you have to get them working together. And so instead of brand being under marketing and product design being under product or engineering, we have one discipline. And that's actually worked really well for Zendesk. And I'm starting to see more companies doing that, but not necessarily at the scale that we're at. There are a few bigger companies, huge companies that are doing it, but generally that doesn't happen. I think it's going to happen more. I think that's another trend that's coming up. From an individual practice perspective, depending on the maturity of the business, there's starting out as a small company will have generalists that do product design, user experience research, content strategy. They'll do it all. And as the company matures, they will start breaking out practices. And so when I arrived, I had a bunch of generalists of product designers. Some were better at visual, some were better at UX, some were better at product strategy. nobody was really like exceptional with content strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hired in a practice of content strategy. That's another emerging trend. I think you'll start seeing a lot more entire content strategy practices within the groups. And then user research has been around forever, but it's always been in some other department. And a lot of companies do have user research attached to product design. But in my case, in the case of Zendesk, we were talking to customers all the time. Product management, customer success, sales, product design, all talk to customers. But we didn't have a standard way of doing it. And so I've also built out the user research practice at Zendesk. That's not trending new. That's us catching up, frankly. But that grouping, I think, of content strategy and design systems and user research, we call that our central design team. They work horizontally across all the different practices. And so I think that as companies mature, they shift their designers from generalists to specialists. And so that's where we are now, is we have a number of different specialists.
Yeah, so because sometimes you get like a whole design view and experience with marketing materials, and then you go into the product and it's like, whoa, something entirely different, right?
Yes.
So keeping things consistent or more consistent with the design ops and collaboration through, like horizontal collaboration through whole creative departments.
Yes, exactly. And being able to have our brand designers and our product designers working together. We have a big conference coming up in March called Relate. And it's in Miami this year. And all of the demos that our brand team is working on for this event, they're working directly with our product designers to make sure that they are representing the products correctly. And I think that's really important. I had a experience. One of the reasons that I joined Zendesk was because of that, having a chief creative officer and having brand and product work closely together. But one of my reasons for that was when I was at Palm, we were acquired by HP. And I was in charge of every single piece of software on the HP touchpad, which was a failed product. But at the time, we were going to launch. And I'm walking down Market Street in San Francisco, and I see a bus ad, on the shelter, the bus shelter. And it's an ad for my product with software that my team didn't design. Somebody in marketing at HP thought it'd be a great idea to market this stuff. And somebody else at HP thought that they could just hire a design consulting firm to do this software. And I was terrified. I photographed it. I brought it to my CTO and I said, what's going on? And it turns out that HP had hired somebody to do a bunch of, this was like a music software, which makes sense. You want to have a music player on your tablet. But it didn't work. They had never talked to us. They had never talked to the engineering team. They had never talked to the design team. And so ultimately it failed. And so that disconnect between Palm and HP product and marketing and product design, the product failed because they weren't talking. I mean, there was a lot of other reasons that it failed, but from that very visceral moment on the streets of San Francisco, seeing that bus shelter showing this ad that I had no control over, from that moment on, I sought out teams that had brand and product design working as one.
Yeah, exactly. And don't you think that because you talked, you said something about like user experience being more drawn into maybe even decision making with design teams, and because I think, I guess, like a few years ago, we people or like business leaders would think, okay, designers are just, like painting and, like choosing colors and stuff. And now as designers get more solid, sit at the table, um, I think designing with, like user data and user research is getting more and more important, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's something that, because we have the data now, we can access it. Now it's really important to be designing with data, and that's something that my team is continuously looking at. Is Zendesk does customer support software, and so you send an email to or maybe a tweet or something to a product that you want to have some sort of conversation with. Maybe you're trying to return something, maybe a delivery didn't happen. So we provide that software for a lot of major brands. And so when you send that information, the agent needs to know who you are, where you live, is the return happening or not? Where is it in the, if it's actually something that's being delivered, where is it in the delivery process? They need that data. And then we need to design that data that represents that in a way that is easy for them to digest. And so that's one way that we are designing with data. So the CRM basically is where Zendesk is headed, is really providing this content management solution for all of our customers. And so the designer's job is, how do you represent that data in a meaningful way? And that's when it gets really interesting, because you've got all these data points, but how do you distill it down to the right information at the right time for the right audience? That's the fun part.
Yeah, and well, as you said with the HP product, you got to know your end user like really well to anticipate what they need and what they want, right?
Yep, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a like from the leadership point of view, I think that's a pretty huge challenge, isn't it? To like maintain everything in like, as you said, like under umbrella, but also business wise and management wise.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I was saying before we started recording that my job is less of designing products, and it's more designing the organization so that the product teams are in a good position to build great products. And so that's my job, is looking, and I've got these 9 offices, so figuring out where the engineers are and our product partners are, and then placing designers, researchers, content strategists, design systems folks in those places so that we can actually do really good work. And then I also have to consider careers. Each and every person on my team, I want to have a thoughtful career here and set them up for success for the next thing. And so figuring out budgets, locations, levels of skills, product vision, what's the right skill set that we need to get that done, that's what I do. So I'm designing the organization.
That's a huge challenge. Do you have like some specific skills, for designer posts, like all kinds of designer jobs at your company that you are looking for in a designer? And maybe let's just have like an advice for people who are maybe looking.
I think the best advice that I can offer around getting into product design is being adaptable, embracing ambiguity, and that fuzzy front end of, we've got this problem that we need to solve for and we're not quite sure what it is. That I think is really important. I hire, and this came from a previous manager of mine years ago, I hire for the how and less for the what. The what is trainable in that you will be an expert in some tool or some particular skill, and then it will evolve. I was an expert at Flash. Totally irrelevant now.
Yeah.
Right? So the what does not matter. I don't put Flash on my resume anymore. Right? The what is constantly evolving.
Exactly.
The how, though, is the hardest part of the job. How you show up, how you present yourself, how you storytell, how you can persuade others to see your vision. Not a chip on your shoulder, angry at the universe because engineering won't listen to you, but helping them see what you see. That is so hard. And then hiring for that, and then grooming that. So it's the emotional intelligence piece, I think is really important. So I personally try to hire for the how and then train up on the what, because the what is just going to change.
Yeah.
When I left the tools, the hands-on design tools, we were using Adobe Suite, Creative Suite. So all the other tools, I haven't touched at all. I have viewer licenses. So the what changes. I spend a lot of time in spreadsheets and Google Suite because that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, well, I think, that's the perfect conclusion for a talk about trends, because, like some things are just, like in for a minute, and some things are evergreen. And I sincerely hope that all the design leaders are hiring like you, not for the what, but for the how. And having said that, thank you very much, Kim, for your insights and for taking your time to share your knowledge with us.
Great. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.